Hello and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester and thank you for joining us for episode 121. Tonight we'll give you our match and player analysis for Wolves' 2-1 defeat at Anfield, talk about today's officiating. I'm sure that'll be fun, take some of your questions and look ahead to next weekend's game against Bournemouth. As always, I'm delighted to be joined by our club captain Mark Knock, and making his debut we have JP from Concept Scouting. We're looking to bring some adult chat into some fiery usual individuals, but thank you for joining us tonight, JP. Knocky, let's get straight down to business. It finished Liverpool 2, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1. Your take on this afternoon's proceedings?
Still raging, to be honest. I thought I was really proud of the performance. I thought first half we were not quite as good. I know Vitor's dug them out a little bit for first half performance, but I thought we were in the game. But it didn't really work with Sarabia. Wasn't really giving us that balance that we needed, and Guedes as well just didn't really affect the game the way you wanted it to. And, we gave away a really horrendous first goal. It's a little bit unlucky. I think Totti's trying to clear and he ends up flicking it on. And after that, we don't defend it particularly well. Second's never a penalty in a million years, as far as I'm concerned. There should have been a foul before that. But then I thought we started growing into the game quite a bit. We looked a little bit more physical. We started to get a little bit of a grip in midfield without creating a great deal. But you always felt like we were in the game. And then second half, I thought we were excellent. I thought we absolutely battered them in that second half. And we didn't create a whole load of chances, but we had enough to have taken a result out of that game. And I don't think many teams will go to Anfield and do that to them. It was an excellent performance. And there's a few things I think we could probably look on and think maybe we should have done better. The Menezes goal, the chance he had, he probably should have finished that. But, a fantastic run to get himself into that position. Cunha's goals, top class as you'd expect. And I think we had them really on the ropes at one point. I think they were on the back foot. And I don't think anyone could have complained if we'd have come away with that with at least a point. Unfortunately, you're up against a very good team. You're also up against a completely incompetent set of officials, so it makes life a little bit more difficult.
That's my dog involving himself in the show. He's never done
agrees.
That before, Jake. Affect you?
It's because we're talking about Hooper now. His head's gone. I just thought it was an awful refereeing display, and even before the penalty that he should have overruled and he didn't. Jota dives, he doesn't book him. Diaz dives, tries to get Agbadou sent off. He doesn't book him for the dive. There were so many poor decisions from him, and I know that you don't want to just blame it on referees, and maybe it didn't affect the game, but if he does his job properly, they're down to 10 men and it's only 1-0 at that point as well. So really some frustrating areas, but all in all, I'm very, very proud of the performance and proud of what the lads did. I thought they were absolutely superb, and it's actually given me a little bit more confidence that we've got a genuine chance of staying up now.
Great take, Knocky. I'm sorry if I missed the middle bit there. My dog's heard someone outside. He thought it might be the match official. He's lost his mind. Don't work with animals or children. And here I am hosting the Wolves Report podcast. JP.
I thought it was Tyler actually in the background.
Yeah, he's upset. Yeah, Type's getting his Toti tattoo removed. JP, following on from Knocky, I'd love to get your take on today's game.
Yeah, I think that's going to be. Thanks for having me on, by the way. I think that's really as happy as you're ever going to come away with a performance-wise without getting a result. I think, as Knocky says, I'm usually quite slow to slag referees off because everybody else seems to do it anyway. But today that was so bad; it was dreadful. And I think it's not even so much the big decisions; it's the little ones that kind of accumulate over like 10, 15, 20 minutes, especially in the first half. I think the likes of Szoboszlai, McAllister, definitely. Couple of others were just dropping almost cynical fouls in 2-3 times, and then I know when he booked Kanate for his first foul, and it was just a bizarre performance from the referee. From a Wolves perspective, I think if Strand Larsen's in that team, and I don't think Strand Larsen the last couple of months has been brilliant, but I think that what he would have offered would have probably got as a result. I think. Menezes is unlucky, really. I think that's the fact that he's even playing as a number 9 is unfortunate for him to come in. He should probably put that chance away. That being said, it's on his left foot and he's kind of shanked it, hasn't it? So, and he's against one of the best shot stoppers in world football. So, I think I've seen him get a little bit of stick actually tonight, which I find odd considering how early it is in his career. But he'll come good. I think. The midfield, which I've not seen a lot of people talk about the midfield, but I thought Joe Gomez and Andre absolutely bossed what is probably the best midfield in world football at the moment, or one of. So that I think the best part of that is I don't think that comes as a massive surprise either. So yeah, it's really solid. A lot to be taken from that today.
I think yes, it's a really good way of phrasing it. To come away from a game to lose, it's quite hard, but almost an air of disappointment. Now that's not an emotion I was expecting to feel this evening. I'm frustrated because of the officiating that we'll talk about later, but that second half, other than probably a 10-minute spell when Liverpool sort of kept the ball and didn't really want to attack that much, Wolves were the better side. And that's not something I thought I'd be saying today, but I did feel like the first half was okay. But the introduction of Manetzi and Bellegarde, second half, Wolves were a different beast, and Liverpool couldn't live with in terms of the rest of the end.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we've lost the game, but I think there's acceptable ways to lose football matches, and that was one of them for me. There was a lot of effort, there was a lot of work rate, there was some real quality in that side, and I was a little bit surprised Bellegarde was left out. I thought he was excellent against Villa, and he looked like he's found a bit of a home in that position. So I was a little bit surprised that he took him out, but when he came on, it turned the game for us. Sarabia is a talented player, as we know, but that sort of game just doesn't suit him for me. He never going to have enough time on the ball to really affect it. For Wolves to put ourselves in attacking positions, it's most likely to be a break from back to front where you need that pace over the top, and it just doesn't give you that. So I would have done things slightly differently myself. But in the second half, I thought that we were very, very competitive, and they struggled. It's not very often you see Liverpool in the corner at home trying to waste time and throwing themselves to the floor and trying to break it up and make it horrible. So we had them on the back foot, but we did lose the game. But I think we all expected that. I had a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek sneaky before the game, but you know what you're going up against when you're playing a team of this quality. You know that they're 9 points clear for a reason, aren't they? Because they're at that level. So from our perspective, you've got to go in there and try not to get hammered, really, and try and make sure you're competitive in the game. And we did that. And I don't, as I said earlier, I don't think anyone could have argued if we come away with the result.
JP, just going back to the lineup, when you've come off a performance like you did against Villa, obviously just take the Blackburn game out of the way because we knew we'd shake things up a little bit there. But when you perform like that against Villa, who are a Champions League side, granted they looked a bit tired, but we made them look tired, it's hard to justify any changes. So I know if we'd have won or got to the point, we wouldn't have said anything. But did we make a mistake by not keeping the same team today? But you did mention earlier on how good the two midfielders were.
I don't think we necessarily made a mistake. I think there's always an argument that the manager could play it easy and just keep the same team, but he's obviously seen something in the last couple of months from Joe Gomez and Andre that kind of is going to be his predominant central midfield partnership now. I think Bellegarde could probably operate in advance of them. I think maybe if he drops Sarabia out and had Cunha and Guedes in front of Bellegarde, but maybe Bellegarde sitting a little bit deeper, kind of creating a three where we need to. I think that to me would work. I think Sarabia today, I'm a big fan of his, but like Nocky says, that's not the kind of game for him. I think when he's combined with Cunha and Guedes, you do need something else in there. I think Guedes particularly was poor. Naturally, he's going to be bullied in the air by them too, and I don't think we really helped him by kind of knocking balls over the top. I think a couple of times Doherty was just banging diagonals in, which you could tell was a tactic. It wasn't Doherty being kind of, just deciding to do it, but you could tell that was a strategy that we were going for, which just wasn't ever going to work. And if you're going to do that, you've got to drop Manetzi in there because he's big and he's strong and he's going to win more often than not. So I think from a team selection perspective, we're just in a really good position now that we can have this conversation, because 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 12 months ago, we can't really have that chat, can we? That's your 11, off you go. You'll have a few kids on the bench and some fringe players maybe to come in. But Bellegarde, for me, has probably been our best player the last 3 or 4 games. I think when he's played, he's been dominant. I think when he came on today, he was excellent. I think that's really good to see, because you can tell that he wants it. I possibly would have started with Bellegarde and gone unchanged, but I definitely think the midfield worked. I don't think necessarily the midfield was the issue.
Yeah, that's a fair point, Nocky. It's an interesting one for the manager, because if you come away from losing, we're always going to pick it apart. The press are, the fans are, the podcasts are. We're always going to pick it apart. But overall, it was a good performance. However, at half time, he acknowledged that it's not quite going to plan with Guedes and with Sarabia, and he made the changes, and Wolves looked better for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we were awful in the first half. I know we were 2 goals down, but I always felt like we were in the game. And there's an argument he did get the team right because he made those changes at half time and put them on the back foot and made it a little bit more awkward for them. I've got no issue with the manager setting up a team that doesn't work. I think it's a real tick in the box when they can recognise that you need to do something a little bit different and react to it, and he did that really well. Bellegarde was excellent when he came, and I agree with JP. I wouldn't have taken him out. I think he was the player who looks like he gives us that bit of energy in midfield, where we've got 2 players in Andre and Gomez, who are both very talented players, but they're not going to break themselves to get into the penalty area at the end. They're just not those sort of players who do that regularly. So you want a Bellegarde who can just link up the midfield to the attack. But, he made the change at half time. He recognised it. Bellegarde came on with the right attitude, and I just thought they struggled to contain him. So, yeah, it's easy to say he should have done something different, but I think when you look at the performance and you look at the way that we conducted ourselves over 90 minutes, you're probably going to say against a team of that quality, he probably did get it right.
Well, they're a contender for the Champions League. They're probably going to win the Premier League. And for over half that game, Wolves are the better side.
If they play with 12 men every week, they will.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that in a bit. I'm reluctant to hammer that when we're analysing the team, although I agree. But I think, as Tyler said earlier on in the group chat, we need to do better in both boxes. We're a little bit sloppy defensively. We're a bit wasteful in there. You do those 2 things better, you've probably won at Anfield today. And
yeah, I do. Sorry, Matt. I know we're going to talk about it later. I do agree with that. But then at the same time, you're up against an absolutely world-class team that's just full of internationals. So you need it to be an even playing field. It's all right. We should do this in that box. We should do that in this box. The way we were playing, we're in that game. We're alive. And for me, they should be down to 10 men up against with just a 1-goal lead, and that gives us an opportunity. So yes, it's about what you do in each penalty area, but you need an even playing field, and I don't think it was today.
No, I absolutely agree. And we are going to do a section on that, and I'm sure we're going to let rip in it. Probably the last ever podcast we do on the Wolves Report. But yeah, it's been coming a long time. Let's go back to the game. The opening goal, a little bit of comedy errors, JP, but your take, what could we have done better, and how did you see it?
I think it is a bit of a comedy of errors. I think it's a string of kind of minor errors that have kind of... Initially, Sarabia loses the ball, doesn't he? Sarabia loses the ball, which was a kind of fixture of the first half, in fairness. And then the biggest mistake in the set for me was when Doherty rushes out. I don't think he needs to at all. That being said, even when Santi came on, there was quite a clear instruction to engage early with all of the centre-backs. You could tell they were looking to engage high up the pitch, which sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it isn't. And to be fair, Doherty's got turned. The advantage you might have if it's Agbadou doing that is he's probably got the pace to recover. Doherty hasn't. Same with Totti. Totti's probably got the pace to recover, but Doherty hasn't. So he's got turned over. I think Totti's unlucky, but as we said earlier, I think it's kind of a product of him doing... He does a lot of good things, but even the good things he does looks a little bit weird, a little bit odd in what he's doing. So I think when he's just poked a leg out, it's unlucky. I think Sarr should probably do better as well. So it's a real comedy of errors, really. And they're the kind of goals we always concede. I can't remember.
It's such a Wolves goal concede. You're bang on. It feels like we see one of them every few weeks, and we're now just sort of almost numb to it.
And it's always, whenever that goal goes in, it's never in the 70th minute, when we're 1-0 down. It's always in the first 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes when we're getting a foothold. And we were doing them on the break. We were getting up the pitch, and Joe Gomez and Ait-Nouri were looking really good in that phase. And then we've just chucked it all away with a stupid Wolves goal that we always do. And I think that problem is not going to go away. That's something that the players in our team, starting with Sarr, but Totti's prone to one of them. I'm a fan of his, as we kind of quite emotively suggested to Tyler in the week. But we have got a team full of players who do things like that, and we are slowly eradicating that. But it's not going to be quickly enough for it to stop. And it's always against the big teams where we can see these stupid goals,
and you get punished every time.
If that's in the Championship, 9 times out of 10, you probably don't concede. You cut it out. Whereas you're playing against world-class players, so it's a really disappointing goal to concede, isn't it?
Yeah, agreed. It was a bit of a stinker. And it got worse pretty quickly, Nocky. Now, this is the first... I mean, there was a couple of yellow cards before this, but this is the real sort of first controversial moment of the game. I've not spoken to either of you about this goal, but I just feel like we've all played football at various levels. When you're running and you get the slightest knock at speed, even a man of Agbadou's size, you're going to get knocked out of the way. Now, what I would say to you, Nocky, I would ask you this question. If that goal is scored by a Wolves player in the first half, is that goal being disallowed?
100% it's been disallowed. There's no question about it. I mean, look, it could come into the soft category, couldn't it? But for me, he puts two hands in his back and there's enough motion there to move him out of the way. And if you compare the contact on Agbadou by Diaz to the contact on Sarr on Diaz, there's much more contact from Diaz than there is that he's receiving. So for me, it's the wrong decision. There's enough there for him to be shoved out of the way. And I've seen a few people say that Agbadou should have thrown himself to the floor. You shouldn't have to do that. If it's a foul, it's a foul, whether you're up or down. So I think it's a really poor decision. I mean, I think we had one ruled out. I think it was last season for a swinging arm somewhere that barely contacted a player, and they put it back and give it. So again, it's as we spoke about before. There's no consistency, is there? It's very much subjective, but it always seems to go one way when you're playing these teams. For me, it shouldn't have stood, and I'd probably frustrated if I was the other way around and we hadn't got that. When you break it down and look at it, if you're going to go purely on contact, there's two hands on him. It's not a shoulder barge. It's not a leaning into him. It's 2-4 hands into him, which shepherds him away from the ball. And he's mid-air. He's trying to cut the ball out. You're going to move
running
him
at speed.
Yeah, you're going to change his momentum. So I thought it was a poor decision.
JP?
Yeah, kind of echo all of that. I think if you're being really overly critical, Sarr's done that a few times where he comes out and kind of gives the referee a kind of decision to make. I know Newcastle away last season, I think it was, and a couple of others. So you could argue that Sarr's too quick to go down, maybe just stand your ground and kind of shepherd him out because he was going nowhere, really. He was going wide of the goal. But I raised the point earlier that Agbadou stays up, doesn't go down, doesn't get anything. Diaz goes down and he gets it. So I do think if Agbadou goes down there, the referee flags because that referee is a prime bottler and he would have bottled anything like that because even regardless of the kind of which team it was for, a lot of the big decisions he was kind of shying away from, I thought. So they just generally tended to be kind of in favour of Liverpool. But I think that one there, if Agbadou goes down, I don't think he plays on there. I think he blows up.
Yeah, it's a real tough one for me because I'm a purist, but I also love blood and thunder football. But I also think that professional referees shouldn't have to see a 6'4", 15.5, 16 stone man throw himself down to the ground to get a free kick, to buy a free kick. You should look back and see on VAR, not that it's soft or there's not enough. The hands aren't part of the game. Your shoulders, your chest, your back, your body. If you're using your hands to change direction of somebody and it has that much of an impact on the game, it's a foul. Now, if that's on the halfway line, I think the ref blows up. If he sees a forward push, regardless if it was a massive shove or a push or not, it's two hands in the back of a huge footballer who's running at full speed. Any kind of nick there, he's going over. So I agree with you guys. Maybe we've got our gold tinted glasses on, but I see this kind of thing all the time, and it doesn't seem to be the other way around ever. Not that I want to balance the books. I just want them to get it right. And modern football likes to pick and choose when it uses VAR, and it's like, oh, it's clear and obvious, or it's soft. Well, for me, is it a foul, yes or no? I don't care if it's soft or hard. Is it a foul, yes or no? Foul, no goal. Am I simplifying it too much for that, guys?
No, I think that's the frustrating thing, isn't it? Because if he'd have given that foul on Agbadou, VAR wouldn't have overruled it. And I thought VAR did make a good decision today with the Jota foul when he's dived for the penalty. So why can't it intervene at that point? Because if he gives the foul, there's not a chance in hell they overrule it. So that's where the real frustration's coming. And I think if they do that inside the penalty area, I don't think he gives a penalty for it either. So it's just there's no consistency to any of this. It's just we're so subjective on a system which is supposed to be. It's supposed to be foolproof, really, because you've got the chance to look at it from multiple different angles and understand the different context behind it. So just really frustrating.
Nocky, Chris Reed says, Nocky sneakies need to stop. We always lose. Well, we can't lose Snocky Sneeze. He's quite a big part of the show, but he's right,
We
Nocky.
we always lose, to be fair, don't we? So whichever.
Well, we've done all right recently, but onto the second half. As mentioned earlier on, JP, Bellegarde, Manetzi come on. I don't know if it was by fluke or by design, but the energy, the belief, the strength, the press, the aggression, even without Agbadou, Wolves looked good, and they had more energy, they had more zip. Liverpool looked like a team that thought they were going to concede, and Wolves looked like the team that thought they were going to score. So, I mean, what a difference those two changes made.
We spoke in the week, didn't we, on the space about front foot footballers and kind of back foot footballers, and the likes of Sarabia and Guedes, whilst they're kind of technically probably on the more gifted end of the spectrum in our squad. Players like Bellegarde and Manetzi bring fight, and they bring legs, and they up the tempo straight away. And you could tell obviously Vitor's done a brilliant job at half time, because you can tell the attitude changed when they've come out. They've obviously had a round of proverbials at half time, but Manetzi and Bellegarde, they are those kind of front foot footballers that we talk about. Joe Gomez, Andre, Ait-Nouri, even, they want the ball, they want to dominate, they want to run into people, they want to do what needs doing. Whereas Sarabia and Guedes, we've talked about Hwang in the past, they're those kind of more methodical. There's talent there, but there's not. You're not going to win anything on talent. And when you're down the bottom of the league, players like Agbadou, who's obviously a technically good footballer, but he's got that fight. He wants to win everything, and they'll step out of the line sometimes. I know Bellegarde threw a couple of tasty ones in it towards the end, which is
lovely.
It's what you've got to do. It's what you've got to do, and particularly in the home games, that'll be really, really important to us, because that'll get the fans on side. So I think they're absolutely the right subs to make at half time, and you could tell instantly that we were on the front foot. Obviously, there's a couple of decisions that could have gone another way that might have swung the game the other way. But yeah, I want to see more of them too in the team, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I agree, and it's a really good point in terms of technically gifted footballers. Some of them tend to take less risks and be less direct because they've got the talent. Whereas Manetzi, Bellegarde, I mean, look at Bellegarde's performance against Villa. He was the tone setter for that performance, and man of the match. He led from the front. He got forward. He tracked. It was fantastic. But Nocky, when Wolves were on the front foot, they got the goal they deserved, and what a goal it was. I believe it was on his weaker foot, but sometimes you don't know. But that's the touch of a footballer with a £62.5 million buyout in his contract.
Outrageous, isn't it? And the 62 million is nowhere near enough, by the way. It was good movement in and around the area. I think we'd had him on the back foot. Lovely back flip by Bellegarde to play him in, and you're not really expecting him to hit that on his left, are you? But it's absolutely perfect.
The way he dropped the shoulder, though, the way he's gone and then left.
Yeah, I think Van Dijk's still halfway to the chip shop, I think, after that one. But he's hit it. I mean, you don't beat Alisson with a strike like that on your weaker foot unless it's an absolutely top draw hit, because I think he's the best shot stopper in the world. So to ping that past him on your weaker foot into the bottom corner, it was just inch perfect, wasn't it? He started outside the post and just brings it back inside. And that's probably the difference between us and the three teams around us, is that we've got that extra level of quality in the attacking areas, and it's just a world-class strike from a top-class player.
Reluctantly, I have to admit that's the goal that Nocky scored against me about 1,000 times on FIFA, but that's a conversation for another day. I'm too old for FIFA now. JP, that's a world-class strike from a player who is absolutely believing in everything he does.
Yeah, 100%. It was very similar to the goal against Arsenal at the Emirates, albeit slightly further out. I think now that Cunha's obviously got his contract sorted, and he knows he's probably going to get a move in the summer, then we're going to get the best out of him in the next few months. And as you said, I think Ipswich have, Hutchinson and Delap are talented boys, but they're not in the same stratosphere as Cunha. So we're going to be desperate to keep him fit for the rest of the season. Albeit Bellegarde in the build-up was excellent. The general kind of pattern of play.
It was a nice team goal before that, actually.
It was, but we are building in that regard. I do think we look a lot better in terms of patterns of play going forward, and I think when Strand Larsen comes back, he's going to be really important to that as well in terms of holding the ball up, hopefully. So I think there's definitely kind of green shoots there, and we definitely look like we know what we're doing going forward a little bit. We just need to start putting these the chance from Manet's is gilt-edged, really. So we can't afford to give those kind of chances up, can we?
Yeah, I mean, in his defence, and I know he's had a little bit of criticism, and I always say this, and I said it on the Space in the week, I worry about players when they stop getting chances, not when they miss chances. You get frustrated, but eventually a professional footballer of that talent, when they get chances, eventually the goal's going to come. He's not going to keep missing. If he keeps getting those chances, it will happen. Should he have done better? Probably, and I'm sure he's kicking himself, but he's playing slightly out of position. I mean, the touch for Bellegarde to put him through was just absolutely outrageous for that one chance. That was that touch and Bellegarde. I hope he meant it because it was obscene. And the timing of the run that left obviously Van Dijk for dead, it was fantastic. So, any regrets, boys? Are we? Is it a hard luck story? Could we have done better, or is that about right?
I've got regrets that the referee got out of bed this morning. Besides that, not really.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm frustrated, and that's not a feeling I expected to have after that game. I thought we'd probably get beat 3 or 4 and it'd be a comfortable afternoon, and you almost write the game off. So to come away from a game against a team of that quality and feeling disappointed that you haven't at least took a point out of it, it's you've got something to build on there, haven't you? So no regrets. On another day, maybe we get something.
This is episode 121 of the Wolves Report with Mark Knock, JP from Concept Scouting, and myself, Ryan Lester, analysing Wolves' 2-1 defeat at Anfield today. Let's go through the player ratings. Knocky, we'll start off with Jose Sarr. JP mentioned earlier on he probably didn't need to throw himself out like he did for the penalty, but that's what he does sometimes. But yeah, your take on Jose Sarr?
He didn't have a great deal to do, did he? Which is quite surprising. I think the first one he maybe could have done a little bit better with. I know that he's got to react quickly, but it's either a goal or it's a penalty, isn't it? Because he's got hands on him. So I want to see him do a little bit more there. The penalty, yeah, he's going absolutely nowhere. It could have, the goal, he's running out. The best he's going to do is take the ball back out to the corner flag and try and bring it back into the penalty area. So he doesn't need to go to ground, and he's done that on a few occasions. Everything else, I think he was okay. There was a couple that he shanked out of play from standing position, but just on the basis of those 2 goals that you can see, that it's hard to go above a 4 probably.
JP, moving on to the back 3, your take on Toti Gomez and Matt Doherty?
Toti Gomez, I thought, grew into the game, to be honest. I thought the first, as I generally do when I'm watching Toti Gomez, especially away from home against big teams like this, I'm panicking first 10 minutes because he always wants the ball, which is really positive, but then sometimes we shouldn't necessarily give it him in certain areas. But as always, he grew into the game. He was dominant physically. I think him and Ait-Nouri did a really, really solid job on Salah. Wasn't really involved in the game at all, to be honest with you. So I think he's growing. It comes back to the conversation with Tyler the other day. I think he's limited in certain areas, but he's absolutely unbelievable in others. Physically, even when he's bringing the ball out the air now, I think maybe going back 12 months he'd be shanking it out of play, but he's bringing the ball down and trying to play with it, which it's got to be commended. Really, don't get me wrong. He's going to give the ball away, but there's not many centre backs in the Premier League that don't give the ball away. It's the way we're going now. So, Toti Gomez, solid 6 out of 10 for me, I would say. Doc, similar. I think there's a mistake on the goal, which I don't think he needs to maybe be pressing that hard. But if he's under instructions to do that, then whatever. I think it was a typical Matt Doherty performance. Really, there was kind of pockets of the game where he was kind of picking the ball up and stepping over the halfway line, which is a real kind of strong point of his now. I think in this kind of twilight years of his career, to see him doing what he's doing at centre back is really, really, really good for us. I don't think he put a foot wrong, really. I think that a lot of the balls that they were putting into the box he was dealing with. So another 6 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, it's what was interesting for me today is I wasn't expecting this to happen at Anfield, but I mean, in the last few games, we've seen these Toti slaloms, and I'm all for it because it's fun. You don't know what's going to happen, but when he's got his pedal down and he's going, centre midfielders aren't really enjoying that because he's not going wide; he's going through the middle of the pitch. So although the centre midfielders have got the engines, they don't really have the pace. And it's fun, isn't it? It's enjoyable. Doc as well. He was pushing forward in that first half. He was getting there. And that's exciting. So I know it's probably not the same kind of football, but talked about Sheffield United. They had their overlapping centre backs, and we seem to have done that in the first half. And if that's the way we're playing, and we've given Liverpool a good game, I'm absolutely all for it. But
I think there's a bit of a link there on with the wing backs as well, because I think as soon as Totti Gomez picks the ball up and goes on a run, in fairness to Ait-Nouri, instead of bombing on, he is cutting in and kind of covering him, which I think in the past Ait-Nouri would have just bollocked it up the pitch. So I think that's the link between Semedo and Doherty's been there for as long as I can remember them playing together. They do seem to have that kind of link together, and they're both intelligent footballers. So I think it's right if you've got players who can carry the ball, then with two players in midfield, I think Joe Gomez can carry the ball, but you need someone in that back three who can pick the ball up and carry it. And I think, to be honest with you, all three of the starters today can do that.
Mm. Yeah, pleasing to see. Noki, moving on to Agbadou. It looks like he's got a hamstring injury. That'll be a couple of weeks. Hopefully it's not too serious, but I think he's very, very unfortunate. We covered it briefly with the penalty. I think he's very sorry for the penalty. I think he's very, very unfortunate for that to happen. Strong, athletic, confident. He's dealing with Liverpool well. Modern football, £15 million. He looks the real deal.
He looks quality, doesn't he? And I'm not going to blame him for the goal, because I do think that he was levered out the way. He was good. He's brave, maybe a little bit too brave at times. I think he nutmegged someone on the edge of the own penalty area. He gives you kittens at times, but he's got a range of pass on him. He's fierce in the tackle, and I think the first few games that he was with us, you were a little bit nervous about him on the ball, whereas he seems to have got to grips with that now, and he looks comfortable. Feels like an absolute bargain at that price. So, he didn't play the full game, did he? But he's at least, if based on his first half performance, he'd probably be a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd probably give him a 7. I just think he's imperious, and what he does, his dominance, his strength. He's what I really like as well, and I know it'll go wrong sometimes. I really like the way he's confident enough to ping a 35-yard pass into someone's feet. Now, obviously that's going to go wrong, but to have that confidence to really ping it in and trust the midfielder's going to be able to take a touch. I really like the way he can cut the lines like that with the passes. So yeah, excited.
He's a presence as well, isn't he? He's a presence that we've been badly lacking in that area. We've not had someone who's physically sound.
He's a proper centre back, isn't he? He's a proper centre back.
I mean, I like Dawson, but he never had that physical prowess about him that Agbadou seems to have. And I think if you've got a player that you trust in that area and you're comfortable with, it makes everyone else play a little bit better as well. So for me, if you can get him back fit, he sits in that midfield, in that defensive three, and he sits in the middle and he just controls things, and he gives you a real chance.
Yeah, I actually thought as we went forward we would see him move to the right hand side and not the middle, but actually it looks like the middle is where it's at. JP, with him, he looks like he can bring the ball out there. He can ping it left, he can ping it right. He's happy to carry it. So he's not the kind of person I had as your Connor Cody, but he's a completely different kind of player.
Yeah, he is. Even in France, though, he can play anywhere across that back three. I think when you're as physically dominant as he is, he can do that. And I think that, as Noki says, there's not many players that can do that. I think Dawson's a really physically dominant player, but he doesn't overly engage. Whereas if there's ever an opportunity for Agbadou to go and steam into somebody, he will. And I think that will create its own problems at some point. But I'd rather him be doing that, and you get the occasional kind of error every couple of games, every 3 games, but because it sets the tone, and that's really important for especially with Doc. It's sense even with him next to Doc. Doc seems a different player because he's also been.
Yeah, I would say Totti as well. I think he's had an effect on both of them. 100%. Those guys look more competent footballers with him next to them.
Yeah, they do, and most would. I think Nasajiga, when he comes in, that'll be similar as well. I think we are going to be strong in that area as long as Agbadou's not out for too long, albeit probably looking 2 to 4 weeks minimum, aren't you? Which is going to be a problem in the short term.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll stay with you, JP. Moving on to the wing backs in terms of Ryan Ait-Nouri and Nelson Semedo. I thought Nelson was good, but I've got to be honest, some of the touches from Ryan Ait-Nouri today were. These are things that, again, Noki would do to me when he's 5-0 up on FIFA and he's dropping volley back heels and flicks. To do that against that kind of opponent, I just thought his footwork was on another level to anyone else today.
That was vintage Ryan Ait-Nouri, I thought today. I think, don't get me wrong, I think offensively you can still do more. You can still deliver a ball into the box. But that being said, there's not really anybody there waiting for him, is there? So I think I think defensively, his bravery in certain areas, particularly when he's up against the likes of Trent and Salah, what he can do with a ball, I don't think I've ever seen a Wolves fullback or wing back do, and I don't think I ever will once he's left. I think the talent on the ball, and as much as Jamie Carragher wants to kind of tout him for a move to Liverpool every 30 seconds, the fact that we've got him until the end of the season, along with Cunha, I think he's one of 3 or 4 players that he's just absolutely brilliant. And I think the good thing with him is you don't know what's coming. Do you? If you're a kind of opposing defender, if you're Trent Alexander-Arnold or Conor Bradley, they do not know what's coming. And there was multiple instances where he was linking up with Cunha and kind of playing those 1-2s, and when they're in full flow together.
Oh.
It's unbelievable. So I think, I thought he was excellent. He was 8 out of 10 for me today. No one's mentioned Salah really, and even in the post-match, Salah, no one's really mentioned him because he wasn't in the game, and that's largely down to I think Totti Gomez, needs to be commended for that as well. But Aït-Nouri, whenever he comes up against Salah, generally tends to come out on top. I remember the Diana Hoover incident. So it was excellent, really good.
Yeah, I mean, Nelson was businesslike. I don't really call him making any mistakes. Didn't really do a lot at the other end, but I thought his retention was good. He travelled with the ball well. He defended limited problems. I thought he was very good as well. I'd probably say, I mean, we've conceded 2 goals, but I'd say Nelson was a 6, and I'd probably put Ryan down as an 8. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I agree. I think Semedo was much better second half, but naturally, I think with Sarabia in front of him, he's having to do more defensively. Whereas I think the way we'd set up in the second half, he had a little bit more support. He can get forward. I think Bellegarde was down on the touchline quite a bit as well, supporting Semedo. So I think Semedo's one of those players where if he's got the right players around him and he can link up and he can get forward, then you'll see the best of him. Whereas I do think whenever Sarabia is playing, it kind of restricts him a little bit. We'll come on to Sarabia, I'm sure, but I think that did kind of compound Semedo's problems. Albeit, I don't think he was poor at all. First off, I don't think many of our players were. He just wasn't really in the game as much as you'd like.
Yeah, strange decision with Sarabia in some of the big games he's played in, but we'll go on to him shortly. Nocky, centre midfield, Joe Gomez and Andre. Little bit of a surprise to see Bellegarde dropped out, but as JP mentioned earlier on the show, pretty much faultless from the pair of them.
It worked, didn't it? I mean, I thought they were dominant against a very, very good Liverpool midfield. Andre did what Andre does, really. He sat there, broke at the play, kept the shape, recycled himself back into the position and gave it to Gomez to take the ball up the pitch. And I thought Gomez was energetic. I thought he was winning the ball. We were just busy, weren't we? Is probably the best description. They were busy in that area and they didn't let Liverpool settle at all. I can't be critical of either of them. It's probably going to be a 7 each, I think.
Yeah, really, really good. Be interesting to see what we do next week with the options that are available. Moving on to the front 3, we're going to do a half each here. It's not going to be a good pair for you, JP, but Sarabia and Geddes. You're welcome, mate. You're very welcome. When you read the paper and someone's played 3 minutes and they get the little dash after the name when they haven't been given a rating, I'd give the pair of them that for their kind of 45-minute contribution. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a slicer of those two at all, but it was not their game today. I think maybe the way we set up didn't help them either, but even on the ball... I think it was one or the other today, JP, wasn't it? Not both of them.
Yeah, agreed completely. I think even when they had the ball and they had opportunities, there was an opportunity where Guedes actually made a half-decent run and Sarabia could have just slipped him in and he just completely overshot it and put it out of play. So I think it's... How low do you generally tend to go on here? What's your...
You go as low as you want, mate. It's your debut. You do what you need to do.
What would Tyler go for? 3?
Sarabia would probably give him a 9 because they're in love.
Oh, okay. I'll give him an 8 then. No, it's 4s all around for them too.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was one or the other. An interesting one about Sarabia is he's played in a lot of big games recently, and I don't really know why. And the only one he's shone against Villa, and I would say, I mean, I know he had the impact against Spurs for the late goals and the goal. That was brilliant. But in terms of his all-round performance against Villa, that's the best I've seen him play in a Wolves shirt. But I don't think Villa are anywhere near as good as this Liverpool team, and you can get away with it a little bit more because we had Villa pinned back and battered them probably for 3 or 4 in the first half against one of the teams that's a challenger for the Champions League in the Premier League. and a team with the mobility of Arsenal and the mobility of Chelsea, I just don't understand why he'd start in those games. So
I'd really question what Carlos Forbes is doing in training, because obviously he's raw, and I'm not suggesting that he would be starting a game like that, but he's not even in contention to get on the pitch, and that's worrying to
chasing the
me.
game as well, putting
Yeah,
him against Trent, surely.
Yeah, it's just really, really worrying, and I think obviously the fact that he's taking the space of somebody that may have been available on the wing. Obviously, we're missing Rodrigo Gomez. I think Rodrigo Gomez starts today if he's fit, and you're probably looking at a different beast altogether, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Second half, there was obviously the two subs that came on at half time, Nocky. Bellegarde and Manetzi, you've had the better deal than JP. Massive impact, physicality, direct. Sorry, JP. Just
some debut this.
Oh, well, mate, you got to earn your shirt, mate. I've got to look after Nocky, haven't I?
I thought Bellegarde was excellent when he came on. I think there's a shout for him to be man of the match with the way that he changed the game and the movement and the aggression he brought into that kind of midfield and attacking area. And he was really, really good for me. I like Manetzi as well. I know he's getting a little bit of stick, but he makes those runs. We've not had anyone to do that for years, someone to break the lines from midfield and get into attack, and he drops deep, he'll go box to box. He probably should be sat on 5 goals out of his first 2 games, and he's missed them all. But the fact is he's getting into those positions to miss the chances, and I don't think he does a lot wrong. He could maybe get under the ball and lift it, but he's up against a really good goalkeeper who's made himself very big, and it's a difficult one to finish. I think if it's on his right foot, it may be a different story. But I like him. I think he's a good player. I think he was one of the reasons that second half changed a little bit towards us. I think with the energy of him and Bellegarde, it made a real impact. So I'd give them both probably 7s.
There's not many players that run off the back of Van Dijk and find themselves one-on-one through Anfield, particularly when you're a midfielder and you seem to be playing a false 9 or 9 or whatever it was. I don't really know. But again, as I keep repeating, I'd start to worry about him in that position if he wasn't doing anything. You can see what he does. He's going to get in the box. I think JP mentioned in the week, one might hit him in the shin and fly in the top corner, and that'll be him up and running then. But that's what he's there for. But his intention to press, to drive, to work, and to be horrible has turned Wolves into a more direct side that Liverpool couldn't live with the second half. Fair, JP?
Yeah, 100% fair. I think we discussed it on the space in the week. Some players bring that kind of technical ability. Some players bring the kind of momentum and the attitude. And I don't think he doesn't need to be a particularly great footballer to score 5, 6, 7 goals in a season, because his work rate gets him in enough positions to do that. And there's been a kind of a few really lazy references to Dave Edwards, but I think they're probably fair in the fact that that's what we saw a lot from him. And I think once Strand Larsen's back in, if Manetzi's finding this amount of space now, when you've got a number 9, the box is maybe taking a centre back away, then I'd be really confident that he will get in those positions to score goals, or at least take somebody away to get some goals for Strand Larsen. So I said when we signed him, Ryan, I know we spoke about it. I think it's a really interesting signing. I think he's going to bring a lot, and I think he will score 3, 4, 5 goals between then and the end of the season.
He changes the whole dynamic. We're going to be a lot more direct. We're going to move from front to back a lot faster, and I'm all for that. I like triangles and 1-2s, but I also like winning and fast football. And if you can get from front to back quickly, and you've also got a player that you can play a percentage ball to that's flying into the box, I'm all for it. Nocky, sorry, I interrupted about Manetzi.
No, I think he's going to be fun. I think he's going to be fun to watch because he's high energy, he's high impact, and he just keeps going, doesn't he? And that's the kind of player that you like to see in your football club, someone who's going to give you 100%. I'm pleased with him. He's a couple of games into his Wolves career. It's a new country for him, a new start, and I think he's adapted very, very well. So I think we've got a decent player there.
Last but not least, and you were moaning earlier on, JP, tell me about Matheus Cunha.
Yeah, well, we ended on a high, don't we? So unbelievable, I thought. Especially, I don't think he was particularly bad in the first half either, like everybody else. But I think in the second half, the way that he can just take the game by the scruff of the neck and just drop a little bit deeper, pick the ball up, play some 1-2s with everybody else, get everybody else in the game, get the ball pinging around. And the beauty that you've got with Cunha is he attracts players to him, and it's almost those kind of intangibles that you can't really control that kind of make him what he is, because the amount of space that Ait-Nouri got second half when Cunha's dropping deep, Ait-Nouri can go beyond. Be really, really interesting
What have you done to him, Nocky?
He's only took 44 minutes to break him.
Oh, we've broke him already. He's frozen. Look, he's enjoying talking about Cunha. But yeah, just finishing off on Cunha. You still there, JP? What happened? You still there, JP?
I don't know. I think my laptop maybe. Can you hear me?
I've got you back now, mate. You were in full flow about creating. You got as far as creating a space for ignoring the second half, and we lost you there, mate. We thought you were having too much fun.
Have you got me back now? You can hear me now.
You're back now, mate. Yeah.
Good. I'd be really interested to see what happens when Strand Larson comes back in. Am I still here? Can you hear me now?
You're definitely still here, mate. This is the beauty of going live and working with animals and children. You just never know what's going to happen. But yeah, we've got you loud and clear, mate.
I think you get the gist. 10 out of 10, 10,000 out of 10. I can't give him enough points.
Tyler would not be happy about that at all. No one gets a 10 around here. No one leaves baby in the corner. That cleans up the player ratings on episode 121 of the Wolves Report with JP from Concept Scouting, club captain Mark Knock, and myself, your host Ryan Lester. Let's move on to the officials. But before we do that, CP Ting says, "Love your work, lads. Well done, thank you. I myself have been supported our great club, and I've been going to watch Wolves for about 53 years. I feel like I've aged 53 years watching Wolves." But I'm not far off 53 either. Well, not quite. But thank you for your ongoing support. Now then, the moment you've all been waiting for. We haven't done this on the show for a little while, but let's talk about the officiating today. Now, I thoroughly understand, and I'm all for that when you wave your hand in a card, you should get your book yourself. I do not like it. I think you should be booked because it feels a bit dirty. I don't like it when other people do it. However, if the official is not, for me, officiating with an absolute balance and consistency that is required of a Premier League game, I can understand why players get hot under the collar. I'm sure the away end was. I know I was. I'm sure you guys were. And I can understand the frustration. The manager's being booked. Agbadu's being booked. Doc's being booked. They've all been booked. None of them have made a foul. So, Nocky, today's official.
It's just appalling, isn't it? I mean, you know, you can talk about corruption. I don't think it's corruption at all, but I do think there is a clear bias, whether it's conscious or unconscious. There's a massive bias towards the so-called big teams, and you can see today he gives the easy decisions. The easy decisions are to give to Liverpool, and if he's not sure, he gives them the decision. I just thought it was awful officiating. If you just take Canate as an instance, he's got booked. He's then smashed into Cunha, which could have been a second yellow. He's also kicked the ball away, which could have been a second yellow. It's not given. You've got Diaz, who went past Agbadu, threw himself to the floor, which was clearly a dive. Doesn't book him for it, even though he doesn't give the foul. You've got Jota, who's turned inside the penalty area, throw himself to the floor, which we saw him do at Wolves lots of times, but it's quite clearly a dive. He gives the penalty. VAR tell him to have a look. He overrules it. Doesn't go back and book him. And it's just so many poor decisions. And we've had a couple of decisions from him, but they're all in safe spaces. They're all in safe areas where it's not going to really affect the game. I just thought it was such a disappointing performance. And you've got to be brave in these games. And you almost feel like they're worried about the reaction for giving decisions against a team like Liverpool or a City or an Arsenal. You feel like they're nervous about what's going to come if they do that. So the easiest thing to do is to just give them those big decisions and not worry about it too much. And as I say, I don't think they're going out there trying to, I don't think there's corruption involved in it. I just think there is a clear bias towards them because of the noises they get and what they get around it. So for me, it was just an appalling performance. And he ruined the game as well. It was so bitty. I think there's 3 or 4 occasions where Wolves players broke in the first half, and we were talking about it before, and there was just cynical tackles coming in, and he just doesn't do anything. And players shouldn't wave cards. I hate it when they do that. But if he does his job properly, they're not walking over and waving cards, are they? Just really disappointing. And, you can say, did it affect the game? I think it absolutely did, because Canate should have been sent off. Wolves would have been facing 10 men. If he doesn't give the penalty, which I don't think he should have done, it's 10 men and you're only a goal down, aren't you? Give yourself a chance. So I don't think referees should get every decision right. I don't think it's realistic to do that. But they've got to get the big decisions right. Those are the ones that are important. And if you've got a ref that hasn't got the guts to get those decisions right, and is brave enough to be there, then you've got a massive problem from top to bottom, haven't you?
Sit on the fence next time, Lockie. Excellent stuff. JP, I'm going to bring this comment as well. You can follow up. I'd love to get your take on it as well. Andy says 3 Wolves players were given yellow cards for asking the ref to do his job. 3 different Liverpool players stopped counters, no yellows. Konate is not given a second. Diaz and Jota simulation, no yellows. Pretty wrapping up perfectly what Nocky said. Your take on today's officiating, JP?
I thought it was awful. I think we touched on it at the start, but I think the kind of Anfield pantomime fan base doesn't really help. The smallest of decisions that the referee gives to us, as Nocky says, in safe areas, they're on him, and he's got to have the balls to be able to stand up to that. And kind of, you've seen referees in the past, particularly going back to the 90s, they'd give a decision the other way just for the crack, just to just to kind of set the tone. And I think sometimes that's what referees these days are missing. There was an incident, I think it was in the second half, where Robertson's gone over to the linesman and started shouting, screaming in his face.
Where's the booking?
No one's anywhere near him. 5 minutes later, Salah does the exact same thing, and that's not something Salah generally tends to get up to. Nothing from any of them. I think with Agbadou walked up and just kind of waved a little card in front of his face, not like waving his arms around. He's like, like yellow card, ref. Yellow card for him. And I think
just taking the easy route.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You want referees to stand up to it, and even looking at the ref's face today, you could just tell on the big decisions he was sinking. You could tell he was just under the pressure. That, in fairness to referees like Michael Oliver, he never really looks like he's under the cosh too much. I don't think. I
don't mind Oliver. I think he's okay.
He's the best of a bad bunch, isn't he? They're all useless. Let's be fair. But today that was, and I generally don't tweet about referees midway through the game, but after 5 minutes, you could just tell the kind of fouls in the central third where Gomez was picking the ball, beating one man, and then Szoboszlai would be pulling him for about 25 yards.
No booking. How is that not a yellow card?
Just nothing. And it's that sets the tone then, because then naturally a Wolves player thinks, well, okay, well if McAllister's carrying the ball, I can tug him for 25 yards. I'm not going to get anything.
Yeah.
Well,
just
it's
yeah. Just your take then on the Konate non-second yellow, because for me, I like aggressive tackles, I like challenges. It's part of the game. It's a physical game, but you've got to get it right. And if you throw yourself into a challenge and you come second and clatter somebody, it's reckless and it's a yellow card. Does that player get a yellow card if he's not been booked already every time?
In isolation, that incident is a stonewall yellow card, given A, the severity of it, because he clobbers straight through him. B, it's right on the edge of the box. And C, he'd already committed a few fouls anyway. So if the totting up process, you would think that would generate a yellow card. He's completely bottled that. Listening to Carragher on the comms, quite actively saying that's not a yellow. Mate, even like the most neutral fans looking through Twitter this afternoon, they can see that's a yellow card. So I'm not sure why the referee can't. I'm not sure why they don't look at it on VAR. Surely that's the whole purpose of it, because that to me is dangerous play. That's if you're playing Sunday League and someone comes, and I know that.
Oh yeah.
If you're playing Sunday League, you get that kind of stuff all the time. But that's a yellow card because you've been nailed off the ball, and it's not like it's Agbadou against Konate, where it's a fair challenge. He's going up against Cunha, and Cunha's gone to win the ball, and he's got absolutely cleaned out. So that I found that was the one decision that I thought was just really, really out there. But all the way through the game, his handling of the game was terrible. I do not get. We've had him a few times, haven't we? And obviously, he was the one that didn't give the penalty for an honour on Kolajic last season. That incident, that's you're never going to
hurts
that, are you? But he's terrible.
Yeah, Nocky, that second yellow card that didn't happen on the edge of the box, I couldn't understand it at the time. I don't understand it now, and I think you guys are right in terms of the strength, the bottle, in moments like that, you need to be a robot. You not consider, he's already been booked. You need to stick to the rules, and by the rules, that's a yellow card all day long. And I don't mind players going up aggressively and going for the ball, but when he's miles off getting the ball and he's gone straight through the player, I just don't understand how it's not a yellow card.
It's clearly yellow, isn't it? I think if he hasn't already booked him, he definitely books him for that. I think the reason he hasn't is because he doesn't want to send him off. It's just a really poor challenge. There's no need to do it, no need to make it. I think if that's a Wolves player and they get sent off, you're not annoyed at the referee for sending them off. You're annoyed at the player for getting sent off like that. Similar to the way we were with João Gomez when he got sent off for stamping down. You were frustrated with him because you shouldn't be making that kind of tackle on a booking. It's exactly the same in this situation. Really poor officiating. It was the easy decision not to send him off. And I agree with JP. I think it was a complete bottle job from the referee, and he just didn't have the cojones to make those big decisions. And you can't go to a place like Anfield, of the game that's really important at both ends of the table, if you haven't got the guts to make the big decisions. It's just appalling.
Just one thing on VAR before we move to the next question, which is also officiated related. What I don't understand is when there is a decision like that, and there's a yellow card that could be a red, why can't they view that? Now, I know it's only for red cards, but I don't understand why, when it is something as severe as that, why can't you go, actually, ref, that is a yellow, could you have a look? Is that going to be slowing the game too much? Because when it can have that much of an impact on the game, surely that's something worth considering, because VAR is there to get the correct decisions, isn't it?
Yeah, you would think so. You see in a lot of other sports, don't you? Whenever you watch NFL, they use the system for what it's needed for, rather than kind of go into a set of guidelines to suggest what you should use it for. Now, common sense should prevail in those instances. You would think the VAR should say, "Come over and have a look at this," whereas maybe they did. I don't know. With that referee, it wouldn't surprise me if he's just fucking turned his speaker off. But the way we use VAR, particularly in this country, is miles beyond what it was actually intended for. And the problem you've got isn't the technology. The problem you've got is you've got, I'm not going to use the word, but you've got people who aren't particularly intelligent using the system. So what do you expect?
Yeah, it just feels like there is. I mean, I'm sure these guys are smart enough individuals, but it feels like they're not football smart. And we've all played football at various levels, and most of the fans can see all the time what's going on. We know about tackles, we know about contact, we know about unnatural contact.
In fairness, Ryan, some of us won the Content Creators Cup last year, didn't we? So
there's no need for that, mate. But what I would say to that, JP, is that that some kind soul gave you a little bit of coaching before the game, told you what you were going to do, and then I heard you just sat back and shit out the life out of it. But there we go. A win's a win, and I'm not bitter at all, but I will see you in
Shout out Chris Tyler.
Oh, he's not going to like that. Anyway, on the subject of Chris Tyler, Alex, where is Tyler to complete the tag team for Sunday special? As I said at the start of the show, he's getting his Toti Gomez tattoo laser removed this evening. He's in a bit of a strop because of 2 misplaced passes, but that's Tyler. I hope you're enjoying episode 121 of the Wolves Report with JP from Concept Scouting, Mark Knockout, Club Tactic, and myself, Ryan Lester. We are almost at 10 o'clock. We'll do a few more questions and we'll preview the next game away to Bournemouth. Let's have a little look. Bobby Smith asks, since the 4th of the 2nd, 24, we have given away 10 penalties. Conversely, we have had 0 awarded for us. Explanation, please. Oh, that feels like it's got a knocky written all over it.
I don't know how to explain it, to be fair. We need to start tackling better in the area, don't we? It is bizarre that we just don't seem to get a penalty. I think under O'Neill, it's probably even more surprising because we were scoring plenty of goals under him. But I don't know, how do you describe it? We're just giving away too many penalties and we're not getting ourselves into attacking areas, perhaps. It can't. I know what the hinting at with that question is around. Is there an agenda? I don't think there is. I just think that maybe there's some of these that are poor decisions, and sometimes we're making poor decisions defensively.
Do you know what it is? And maybe you can come in this as well, JP. I don't think it's so much poor decisions. I think we're a bit naive. I think we are willing to stand up for tough tackle in the box, but we're willing to be honest and go for a tackle in the box. So Wolves' honesty, I think, is costing them. I'm not saying I want Wolves to cheat. I think the officials should do better, because I don't want to see. Well, I didn't like it I loved Yotta, but he'd always throw himself down because that's the shit house he was. He did it today. He should have got booked for it. But I just think we are a little bit naive when you are fouled in the box. Wolves players tend to stay on their feet as opposed to go down. Fair, JP?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think that's crazy. First of all, if that stat's true, I've not fact checked it, by the way. I didn't have enough time after work, but no. I'd be interested to see how many of them Jose Sar's given away in similar instances.
11 of them.
I would imagine there's a fair few, which is not a dig at Jose Sar, but that just tends to be something that he tends to do quite a bit of. But I think 10 penalties in 12 months is quite a lot. But the fact that we haven't got zero is that we've had zero in our in kind of offensive areas is really, really strange. But I feel like that's always been the case. I feel like we've always been a team that kind of we're a little bit too honest. I think we've obviously had last season all the VAR issues that we tend to kind of hang our hats on, which definitely contributed. We definitely should have had some penalties in that period.
Well, Anana being the starting point, and that set the trend for the season.
Yeah, 100%. Well, hopefully over the next 12 months, they tend to balance things out, don't they, over time? So hopefully we've got a few 5 or 6 penalties coming between now and the end of the season.
Well, if that does balance out, Wolves are going to end up finishing 7th with the way it's gone against us. One more question on officials. How do we improve officials in the Premier League? I mean, I don't know if that's tongue-in-cheek. I just think the standard is so low, and they're just, as I tweeted a couple of weeks ago, they are consistently inconsistent, and it's infuriating. Something to foul one week, something's not the next. Something to book in one week, something's not the next. I mean, I thought we'd stop talking about it on this podcast, but it's really its head again today, and we can't help ourselves because you know what, Wolves are good and I do feel hard done by. How do we improve them? I'd be poaching the best referees and offering them more money. I know that's a dark way to go because of money, but the Premier League is supposedly the best league in the world. I don't care if they're English, Scottish. I don't care if it's Knocky. I don't care who's doing it. I want the best referees, JP.
Without getting too deep about it, if you look, if you go to the grassroots element of it, because obviously the vast majority of our referees at the top level are, I think a lot of them have got kind of main character energy, haven't they? They want to be running the show, but they bottle the big decisions. It doesn't really make sense. But if you look in Spain, in France, in Italy, in Germany, the cost of doing the relevant qualifications, the same for coaches, is much cheaper than it is here. And I think the fact of the matter is, your average working lad who's maybe had a failed football career who wants to become a referee can't, because it costs them thousands of pounds to actually get kind of on the ladder. I think if you look in the EFL, there are some good referees down there. I've done a lot of work in kind of League Two and Conference National and below. There's some really good referees there, and that they don't take any proverbial. That they will do what they need to do. Whereas I think the referees in the Premier League, they've got this kind of like status to them now, where they feel like, well, I can give this decision because it's me. Whereas you've got to referee the game in front of you. If you want to referee it in a certain way, as long as you referee it in a certain way for both teams, no one cares. Do what you got to do. But the kind of it's an arrogance. I think with hooper today, there's like an arrogance.
You said that Knocky in the past, haven't you?
Yeah, we've created celebrities, haven't we? I mean, you see referees with their names engraved in boots, and last week the lino had a pair of Nike Air gloves on when he's running the line, and you just, I mean, what are you doing? They've got agents and all sorts now. I think we've over-engineered what it is to be a referee, and we've overcomplicated the systems that they use. And predominantly, our referees are just not good enough, whether that's at the grassroots level or if that's the way that we're developing our referees when they get into that elite level. I don't know, but the standard of officiating is appalling, and it seems to be getting worse every season. I mean, I know we're talking about Michael Oliver being the best of a bad bunch. I think he's horrendous. I think as a referee, he's absolutely horrendous, and I don't think we've got a decent official in the Premier League, and they've got to rectify that, because until you can get a better standard of officials, you're never going to shake this opinion that there's a top six bias. You're never going to shake the opinion that there's corruption in the game, because it almost feels like the evidence is right ahead of you, that you can see it. So they need to get back to basics, get back to look at how they recruit, go into the ex-player market, because I think that's what they should be looking at. They should be looking at players who perhaps haven't quite made that level but have a good understanding of the game, and those are your natural people to come into it, because they'll understand the physicality, they'll understand how what a tackle is, and when you're trying to do someone, and just get back to basics now and stop making it a job for the boys. Yeah,
that's a really, really good point. I just think as well from the very bottom, and I've one of my godson plays football. It's a good standard of refereeing, because I think there's a respect, but I just do think the lack of respect from the big players. Why would you want to go out and give your time up as an adult on a Sunday or Saturday morning when there's little protection and little respect? And that comes from the top, because there's examples of people. You see Bruno Fernandes, you see all the big clubs surrounding the officials. Where's the strength of the officials? If you surround me, I'm going to book you. And you don't see, and you see that then at a Sunday level, you see it on a lower Saturday level. And I just think it's hardly incentivising people because, as you said, if people aren't particularly good or they're passionate about officiating, they want to be involved with the game. And officiating is a great way to be involved with the game. It's somewhere you can be in amongst it, and your job really is to help the game run smoothly and not be noticed. Then you've done your job as an official. But
I think, Ryan, as well, I think without wanting to labour the point, that with VAR, we've added this kind of layer now of removing accountabilities for referees because they've got this kind of backup of VAR that they don't know how to use. But the arrogance that comes with it and the kind of failure to execute an half-decent decision, that's a human thing. That even within the rules of VAR, they can do a much better job than they are doing. I'm sure, there are decent referees coming through. That there are, it's just that we don't have them in the Premier League, which I find odd.
Yeah, it's very, very odd. I mean, there does feel like a lot of celebrities, but they want to be celebrities, but they don't want to give the tough decisions. Yeah. But you paid the bigger bucks. That's what you should be doing. Let's take one last question before we move on to Bournemouth. I think this was 1-1 was too good to turn down. Don't worry, JP and Nocky will have you in bed soon, all tucked up with your cocoa. With our buying-selling model, say if selling Cunha this summer was out of the question, who would we alternatively look at to raise funds now? I think regardless, especially with the goal like today, I think Cunha's gone in the summer. So let's take it out. Let's just say he doesn't and he falls full in love with Wolves and is kissing the badge for another few years. Who are we selling? For me, boys, I think you look at Aït-Nouri and João Gomez. I think they're the next two off the rank. Would you agree with that, or is there anybody else?
I think we've got a real problem this summer because we're going to lose Semedo, we're going to lose Aït-Nouri, we're going to lose Cunha. I know that we're talking about what if he stays, and we'll probably be getting some offers from João Gomez. So we're going to have a little bit of an issue, I think, in replacing those players. But if you're looking purely at that question, João Gomez is the biggest saleable asset we've got at this point, isn't he? I think he's the one that probably goes if you don't sell Cunha. I think if Cunha goes, which I think we all know he's going to, you get another season out of Gomez.
JP?
Yeah, agreed. I think Andre will probably be 12 months down the line, but I think Aït-Nouri, Cunha's going in the summer. I think we've probably, I think most Wolves fans have got.
After he's won the FA Cup, nice way to go.
Yeah, if you say so, yeah. I think he's off, and I think then one of João Gomez or Aït-Nouri, if we let all three of those players go in this summer, with the addition of Semedo, then we're just creating more problems for ourselves, which obviously this board have proven to do fairly frequently. So I'd hope that they don't all go, but Aït-Nouri is going to have the highest market value, I would say, out of those options, because I'd say his ceiling is probably higher than Cunha's, to be honest, given age profile and I think the nature of his position. I think there's more that can come for him. I think Aït-Nouri is probably the hardest to replace in a way because
he's a maverick, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I think he's irreplaceable in a lot of what he does. That being said, you could probably go and buy a solid left back that'll do a job, but he's not going to bring anywhere near what Aït-Nouri brings. So I do see Aït-Nouri going to a Liverpool. I think he'd suit Man United, if I'm honest with you. If he's stupid.
Well, if they're playing wing backs, absolutely. I think Aït-Nouri, if the Man United, if they see that project out and they want to be wing backs, then he's a perfect. I mean, I don't want to see it at Man United. I'm not sure any of us do, but he's definitely suited to a side that plays 3-4-3, and he has the lot with a fast, athletic left back, left-sided centre back behind him, and he's got the licence to go. Although I don't want that to happen. But if Wolves do end up selling 40% of their outfield, and probably most of them are, I would say, the best players, Wolves need to have a massive summer because they're not going to. One season, there's going to be 3 promoted teams, and they're not all going to be worse than Wolves. So hopefully that is the case come the end of the season. Sean, thank you for being part of episode 121 of the Wolves Report. Next week, Wolves go to Bournemouth, a tough run of fixtures. I believe it's Bournemouth, Fulham at home, and then Bournemouth in the Cup. Correct me if I'm wrong. Bournemouth absolutely flying. They've got all the things you want as a football fan. They're playing attractive football, and they are beating everybody. 1-2s, touches, fast pace, screamers. They look the real deal. This is a massive game and a massive test next week. Nocky, they came to Wolves earlier on. They set traps. We fell for them. We give away silly penalties. I think we give away 2 penalties. There was back passes. There was all kind of nonsense going on. Massive, massive task the weekend.
No, we gave away 3 penalties in that game, didn't we? So it doesn't matter who you're playing.
There's 3 of the 10, by the way.
Yeah. So again.
Yeah.
There's 3 of the 10.
Oh, no.
So if you're doing that, you're not giving yourself a chance whoever you're playing. I think they're a good side. Justin Kluivert for me is the one who makes it all tick, and they've got Ouattara up front, who's a real threat as well. Semenyo's a pain in the backside down that side. So it's a tricky game. They're flying, aren't they? And they seem to keep winning, but they're not always going to keep winning. So you've got to go there with a little bit of hope. I think if we can perform in the way that we did against Liverpool today, and we can be solid and maybe. He's got to make some changes for me. I mean, obviously we're going to lose Agbadou, which is a bit of a problem for us. So you would assume that Bueno comes into that position. The midfield, you've got a decision to make there, haven't you? Whether you go with Gomez and Andre or whether you bring Bellegarde in. I think he probably starts Gomez and Andre, and then your front line probably surely can't play Sarabia again. So he's got a decision to make up there. But it's a very difficult game for us. They're a good side.
Yeah, JP, I think Bournemouth are the purest team I've seen at Molineux this season. I think they were good value for their 4 goals. However, if you cut out the stupidity and the basic football errors, they don't get those 3 penalties, and Wolves have got 2 goals and they've got 1. Now, I know football doesn't work that way, but they set the traps. We fell for them. I think there was the Totti one. There was a couple of ones with Sarr as well, first half and second half.
Yeah.
We just absolutely fell for it. The desire and the reluctancy to go long under Gary O'Neill probably cost us that day, other than the Totti one. But we've got to do something different on Saturday to stand any chance, because if we fall to the traps, it'll be another spanking.
Yeah, they're genuine top 4 contenders for me, which it pains me to say, given where they've come from and given where we've been previously. But they've bought well. They haven't spent crazy amounts of money. If you refer back to the players that Noki's mentioned there, Semenyo, Ouattara, Kluivert, all went under the radar when they signed them.
Not for huge money. Very, very good recruitment.
Yeah, Iraola's done a top class job. He's up there with Nuno this season. For me, he's got to be. But that being said, we've gone away to the best team in the league, possibly the best team in Europe today, and we've dominated. Aside from the results. So if and this is a big if we can keep the errors, down to single figures, then I think we'll be in with a chance, because they do give chances away. Southampton got a goal yesterday, albeit quite a good goal from Sulemana, but they do give chances away. I like Ryan Christie. I think Ryan Christie is very much underrated in that team. I think he dominates.
Bit of a shit house as well.
Yeah, he is, and if he was a Wolves player, I'd absolutely love him to death. So it's going to be a tough game. There's no getting away from it. But we've gone down there and got results in the past, so it's not completely out of the realms of possibility that we do it again. And we need a result, don't we?
Absolutely, Noki. What changes are we making for Saturday?
Bueno, I think, comes in for Agbadou. I think if he was going to put Jigger on, I think he would have done that today. So I think it'll be Bueno. Midfield, I think he goes the same. Then would there be a temptation to maybe take Sarabia out and put Bellegarde in and try and solidify the midfield up a little bit? You could perhaps go that way, and then you're looking at Cunha maybe and Guedes in that too, or he could have, I don't know. For me, I'd be dropping another one into midfield. I'd be trying to make the midfield a little bit more solid, and just try and give us a little bit more of a foothold in the game. But I feel like he'll probably go with the same system, and he may even start Sarabia again because he seems to like him.
JP, I think, me personally, having looked at the second half, and I know, as we talked about a lot, it's not just an 11-man game now. I'd be happy if Wolves started next week with the 2 changes they made at half-time. I just think in terms of that kind of team we're playing, the legs, the way they move the ball, the pace, the power, I just think that those 2 are going to be way more suited than Gedge and Sarabia.
Yeah, I do agree. I think Rodrigo Gomez, by all accounts, might be back next week. I think it's only a minor one.
Fantastic, yeah. From
what Vsor was saying, I think Strand Larsen's back in training this week, so I think Bournemouth might come a little bit too soon for him this week. But I'd be completely happy with Bellegarde and Menezes starting. I think I would be surprised if Menezes starts. But
why would you be surprised?
I just don't see him as being a starter at any point for us. I see him as being a finisher. I think there's a lot in football these days about kind of players who are starters and then players who are finishers, players who can dominate in the second half of games. I think Menezes is that player. Don't get me wrong, he will start games for us. He will be key for us. But I'd be surprised if he started. Now, I think if you play Bellegarde in the 3 with kind of in a roaming role with Guedes and Cunha, then I think that works personally. Albeit, I think with Hoyson and Zabani, Bournemouth have got two really, really strong centre backs there. Kirkes is a great option as well. So at left back. So I'd be interested to see what we do with that front three. But I think we need energy up there. So if Rodrigo Gomez is back, then for me he starts off the right in kind of where Sarabia was today. For me personally,
yeah, he's busy, isn't he, Rodrigo? He's one of those players that you don't need to sub him, because from 0 to 90, he's doing the same runs, he's doing the same pressing. And I think he gets better as the game goes on, because where the opponents look tired, he looks faster because he's just got that wiriness, relentless about him. We're almost at the end of the show now. Let's do some predictions. Don't get it wrong on your debut, JP. That's why we're going to save you till last. Nocky, your prediction from AFC Bournemouth against Wolverhampton Wanderers next Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock.
I've got a sneaky.
Yeah, get in, Nocky.
I've got a sneaky. I don't know why. 3-1 Wolves, and Cunha with the opener. I think we hit him on the break in late.
Oh, God, I hope no Bournemouth podcast clipped that. But yes, I hope you're right.
I've been wrong before, to be fair. Every week.
Yeah, only this weekend and every other weekend, but that's cool. JP?
2-1 Wolves, and we're going to get our first penalty since the 4th of February, or whatever it was.
I cannot believe.
You thought mine was daft.
I can't believe we're going to have a clean sleep of away wins at Bournemouth. What is going on? Nocky, what's my prediction?
You'll be going 1-0 Cunha, I would assume.
Got to get it right eventually, and it'll be the penalty that JP predicted. JP, thank you for making your debut on the Wolves Report. JP from Concept Scouting, thank you so much. Nocky, thank you as always for giving up one of your evenings to bring some anger, some passion, and quite often more intellect than the host gives on there. This has been episode 121 of the Wolves Report. Up the Wolves.